Boom. And I think we are live. There we go. Hello, everybody.
Hmm.
Welcome. Another episode, Vagabond Dog Industry
Oh,
Chats. I am very
how
tired today,
publish is there?
but please, yeah. Hello, chat. Good to see you all. Tadeusz, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm a little tired though, because
It's a low key
it was
episode.
it's a okay episode. Okay.
We'll chill today.
Uh, it was a busy day. I had a board meeting today.
Oh, what the fuck
This is
is
my
that?
this is my life now.
A
I'm
board
having
meeting.
board meetings. Yes, I'm
Is,
having board meetings because this is how Polish industry started to look like, and you started to have boards for companies. Uh, In my case, it's slightly different because I'm trying kind of, to finally do something on my own after all those years. I'm not there by accident. There is a lot of companies in Poland right now which are doing gaming because by accident.
right.
They want to cash in on the moment. It is a moment for the whole world, especially right times of pandemic. But in Poland, especially because of CD Projekt Red, and also because of Techland, which were two biggest companies in Poland for years, and I think they still are. I think there might be there might be some which are comparable right now in size, and they are surprisingly not the companies that make AAA games. They are mostly focused on either casino games or like casual gaming, mobile gaming,
Mobile
stuff like
games.
that. There is a huge number of companies that want to cash in on the stock market and on the fact that there is a lot of people wanting to invest in video gaming
Mm-hmm.
because of the successes of the of CD Projekt and Techland as well, even though they are not yet on stock. So there is a lot of companies. There is a huge company called Playway, which basically dominated the whole simulation genre. They are the ones who made the car mechanic simulator or
Okay.
House Flipper, for example. They're
I know
the
those
games
games.
that in millions of copies. They found their way of making video games. They have their own pipeline, a bit like Ubisoft pipeline
Right.
in
Yeah.
toute proportion gardée. So they are, I would say, the Playway is like third biggest or second biggest and most important player on Polish market. And a lot of companies want to kind of copy the success of Playway, do it their own way, which brings a situation in which there is a lot of people who don't know squat about video games, and they want to just do the trailer, put it on Steam, build a wish list, whatever, and see the stock grow. Hopefully that won't be the case. Well, hopefully, surely that won't be the case with me, because for me it's I have an opportunity after 25 years of because this is my 21st anniversary in the gaming business. I'm older than I look. People who don't know me, actually,
true.
there are only my viewers. So hello Sapiro and hello publisher. Very dedicated viewers.
Hello, welcome to Vagabond Dog channel. Okay, so hold on. We'll get into the Polish boom.
Okay.
For my audience who are not your viewers, bro, who the hell are you?
I started off hard.
We went right into board meetings, and we skipped over all the introductions. But
yeah, that's true.
I guess you are what's the title? Director of the games division of Noca-tek, or is it Red Square Game? I don't know how corporate companies work.
Okay, Noca-tek is the company that's like our parent company, and Red Square Games is our studio that's focused on video games.
Right.
And Noca-tek is a company that was basically created to promote cyberpunk as a brand. It's a series of books written by a Polish writer called Michał Gołkowski. He made this company with one of my friends, Marcin Zachorowicz, and I joined on the way when they decided that they want to expand from just making cyberpunk RPG, like a pen and paper RPG, and some board games, and they wanted to expand it into video gaming. And also they found the investors found them. they got interested in
Mhm.
the whole idea. And like they approached me in, I think in December, no, not December, October, I think. And first off, I turned them down, but after the meeting and during the meeting, I told them one thing, that there is one thing that I strongly believe and that they should keep to it, is the fact that cyberpunk as an idea is super easy to understand and to translate to any audience practically. It's understandable for us. It's basically cyberpunk only in Soviet Russia and in near future, when everything is cold, gloomy, and shitty, and you have gopniks with stripped the three stripes jumper suits and carrying like energy weapons and having exo armors, whatever. It's a very simple idea to kind of get a grasp of. It's pretty much like with Metro, the Metro series. It was basically like you have a post-apocalyptic, post-atomic kind of a landscape, and people are hiding in Metro, in subway. That the simplest thing ever.
Right.
You don't need anything else to kind of promote the idea to expand on it, because everybody can kind of, knowing what they know about Russia, how it looks, how it operates, they can kind of imagine what happens when you put it in 50 years, years ahead. Putin is still the president. Only he's like a head in a jar. And it's completely isolated from the world, only working with China, close cooperation with China. So it was a very like tasty idea for me.
Right.
And for me, especially for me, coming from post-communist country, I lived in communism for like 13 years of my life, so I remember a little of it. Not that much that I remembered before, but I still, kind of get the whole idea of how it looked and how it worked. So I also feel that I'm in the right place to kind of guide the video game idea for Cyberpunk. I have an idea for that.
Right.
There is also an idea for like future development, and actually what we are doing right now, it'll be a base for what we want to do in the future. We want to build the systems, the basic gameplay loop that we want to use in the second game, which will be more elaborate and more. Yeah, it's actually something that I dreamed of since I was 16. Like I played a game made by Sid Meier, that nobody remembers, and I want to remind that the name of it because somebody will copy the idea.
Gotcha.
and yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say. Okay, so I mean, you mentioned how like Cyberpunk has this like really good, I guess, for lack of a better term, an elevator pitch, right? It's a very simple concept to understand. You can get behind it, and that's like a really good starting place for any project, right? I've always had the problem where like Always Sometimes Monsters is a really hard game to like. I mean, it's got its elevator pitch, but that came like 2 years after I'd like finished it and like was able to finally get it down to tight. But I don't think you can like, you've pinned a lot into this role and building this team and project and everything. You do that on more than just an elevator pitch though. So what was the point of like Flip for you when you decided, oh, I see something here that's more than just a good core concept?
I had my core concept in me since I was 16. And again, what we are doing right now is kind of an evolution. Shut up, Sapphira. It's covert action, yeah. Sapphira is one of the viewers. So I had that concept in me for years. Right now, I'm skimming it down a lot to make a game which will be slightly like simpler. But this is also a game that we want to use to create our team, to build the team, to find the right people, to move on the second project, which will be way bigger. So it wasn't like that I didn't have an idea for the game, and like I had an idea, I just needed the world, and it kind of came to me. The world came to me as as the cyberpunk is already established 3 volumes of huge books. There are like 600 pages each. I'm also old enough to remember the game. It was actually a really good game. I want to do a flip on it in the future. That's the song of the future. Right now we are working on something different. So again, the point of flip, it was approaching 45th birthday. It's one of the flips. There are some reasons, like I kind of realized that came to a point of realization in English that in Flying Wild Hog, my career can only evolve in a certain way, and it'll take a long time for me to get. Because basically, when I became a game designer after years of being a game journalist, community manager, PR and marketing manager, and also a game designer for a short while for CD Projekt Red, which they called creative analyst because they didn't want to call me a game designer. But then it was for The Witcher Battle Arena, the mobile game. So finally, after all those years, I became a game designer, like full-fledged game designer for a company, right? So, and I started to work on a project. But I also became, even though there are no juniors in Flying Wild Hog, I knew that I was a junior, and I was slightly treated like one. So basically, I had to become first off regular, then senior, then lead, then maybe lead, or I don't know, principal, whatever you can do in a company like that. And I know that it's a road for like 10 years. I have, like, it sounds gloomy, but I like, since I'm 45, I know that I will have energy for next 15 years.
Right.
If maybe
go that 10-year road in a company like Flying Wild is to get to a point where you are in a high enough design position where you could actually start making real decisions and impacting the game rather than executing other people's ideas. I've never worked in a company with 200 people before, so
in Hogs you had impact even on lower levels. I mean, I know that I designed some systems that are in Evil West right now, and even if I won't be credited for that, I know that I did it. So it depends on the big company, of course. There are some companies in which you are like a little cog in the machine. There are some companies in which you are more important than that. Hogs are actually quite democratic. Still, there is, of course, Michał Szustak, who's the CEO of the company. He has the last say in everything. So I knew that it'll take a long time for me to get to a point in which I would I would matter more. Like, I would be the leader of something, not just the follower. First off, and second off, and I think that's actually the more important thing, is that I got an opportunity. Like, somebody came to me with money, with the world that they want to promote, which is promising, and as I said, it's kind of tasty as an idea. Cyberpunk, I like the idea of Cyberpunk. I can feel it. And they said, "Could you help us make a video game?" So, like, yeah, dude. I was scared, and I still am, because it's a huge responsibility. But still, it's an opportunity you shouldn't miss. Like, I missed one opportunity, kinda missed it. I pitched Carrion to Nigel to Devolver, and I was actually on Carrion's team, on Phobia team. I was already on their Slack, and I slacked. So I had work in Flying Wild Hog, and I didn't focus on Carrion at all. And I know that first of all, I would help them a little with my experiences, what I know about video games, making Carrion even better. And second of all, I would have a freaking BAFTA right now. So knowing that, I don't want to miss an opportunity anymore.
Right. It's I mean, there's a lot. Again, it's hard for me to speak so much on this because I've never been a part of somebody else's team before. right? And being part of a group and having the faith in the project and the team and everything in order to have the preception that it's going to be something great versus setting out on your own, starting something, and having the internal self-confidence is always something that has been a lot easier for me, but that's because I have an intense ego. And it's very it's a lot easier to just because you also know that vision so much better than anybody can explain theirs to you, right? Do you feel that difference now that because you've worked on a lot of great games with a lot of big teams and a lot of good projects, but now it's something new, and you're leading it. How do you personally, I guess, psychologically feel about that difference? I mean, you mentioned that you're a little bit worried, afraid of the pressure or whatever, but do you more
that's mostly
strongly
that.
see the vision?
I absolutely, I see the vision as strongly as I've seen it before. Right now, my main concern is how to translate it to other people from my team. And to create the team, because we are right now in a formation phase. We are hiring people. We are looking for talents, so to speak. So that's stressful already, because you have to find, you were mostly a one-man team, three-man team, right? With Jane and
Jake and
Jake. I will have a bigger. I already have a bigger team. We already 6 or 7.
Cool flex, bro.
And there will be around 10 people or more. So mainly the pressure comes from responsibility. Honestly, my vision didn't go out. I have other stuff that I have to think about, and that's also something new for me. But it's also really, really exciting. It's you wake up, first off, you feel oh shit, and then it's yeah, let's go.
So then, I mean, in this formation phase, how do you begin explaining this vision you've got to prospective new employees or other partners that you've got to work with? When it's at best paper right now, and paper and thought is how do you begin to really express the trueness of the vision, and then what are your steps to making sure the vision gets executed as it's in your mind, because that's also a huge step that's really hard to solve.
As for translating my vision, I was a journalist for 16 years, and my main job was reviewing video games, which basically that means deconstructing the game to a high level concept. That's basically it. Putting the most important stuff in the game, dissecting it, looking at it, depending on how you write. You can make an essay out of that. You can make a very simple thing, where you have graphics, then you have gameplay, then you have sound, and it's very structured and very boring. But you can do that as a review, and I did both. I did essays, I did So I have my workshop already prepared, and I had it prepared for I trained on making that workshop work for years when I was writing about video games. For me, it's so for me right now, when I want to describe a mechanic that I came up with, I know how to do it. That's one thing. Second thing is that since I was a video games reviewer for such a long time, I already kind of soaked with, for example, the tooltip. The simplest thing, when you're describing a new ability in that you came up with, you basically have to write a tooltip. And when you play video games for years and years and years, you know how the tooltips looks, because you've seen them they are kind of burned in your mind. Again, I come up with a tooltip easier than somebody who didn't do it before, who didn't had that experience. And what was the second part of the question? How do I make people realize that? It's feedbacking. It's basically like feedbacking every single possible thing. We had this system with my friend and colleague, more than one of our programmers was absolutely, we call it przecinak, which means the cutter, and it's a name that's used for a very highly skilled developer, be it a programmer or designer or 3D artist. Przecinak is somebody who's like shredder. He rips through the subject. But this guy is a programmer, przecinak. Absolutely like mind-blowingly good. And we started work on a project in Hogs. We were working on one of the bosses in the game, and we kind of came up with the way of feedbacking ourselves, mostly on through Jira tasks or through some talks on the chat. But at the end, basically, I created a document describing in a programmer's language, so it's like very structured language and very kind of logical sounding, is slightly different than normal language, but it's very, again, understandable. And basically I was throwing, he did something, then I sat on it and wrote him my feedback and my ideas how adjust. Sometimes I jumped on the system or mechanic myself. He explained me how to work it out in Unreal, because that's my problem. Like I'm shitty with Unreal. Like, I know the basics. I know how to move around. I know how to change variables and stuff like that. I'm really bad with creating new stuff in Unreal by myself. And my problem is that I'm slightly too old to learn. Like I can see that it's hard for me to learn from scratch. So I'm a good copier, so I kind of cope with that. But yeah, it was mostly like he explained me how to change the mechanics by myself, and I explained to him what I want from the mechanic.
That's good. Yeah, I mean the back and forth is a huge part of like getting your vision, but I also find that like it opens up for a lot of compromise in a way that like I don't like. Like when you go back and forth with someone on a design, I mean it usually, I would say for the most part it comes out for the better, because two minds attacking the problem, usually you think of things he didn't think about, they think about things you didn't think about, that kind of thing. But from the like creative director standpoint, where I'm like, I really want it to be this way because of this reason and this reason and this reason that we haven't even like gotten to yet. Those compromises early on can start to like erode the potential for these like latter features or whatever that I'm.
That was slightly different situation, because we were working on a small part of the bigger project. It's already established. Very, very eventful way, on a very eventful way. I'm thinking about one thing. Like, there's one thing that I learned from working at Flying Wild Hog and working with a lot of people. Every feedback is valuable. Every single thing. Like that's the difference between questions. Which, yes, there are stupid questions. Sometimes there are really, really stupid questions, because there's this saying that there are no stupid questions. Yes, there are. There is no bad feedback. Even bad feedback is a feedback. And what I mean by that is that even if somebody says something completely ridiculous, like he didn't understood the basics of what we gave him, that means that we fucked up on the way by designing something that was not understandable for somebody who's on this level, intellectually or whatever, skillfully. We didn't convey the tutorial on how to tackle the mechanic. We didn't explain how the mechanic works, whatever. There is always something interesting in that feedback. So that was the thing that I really learned from working with a lot of people, that you have to listen to any feedback that is outside. You can throw it away. Like, you're not forced. That's the trait of a good creative, I would say. He knows which feedback is worth putting in video game and which one is not.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's good. And I mean, feedback is always just more data. More data is more to work with, so it's hard to argue with that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk a bit about, like you said, you've been in the Polish games industry for a long time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
from before its big boom to now, which I would say it's not post boom yet, like, but it is still definitely some sort of crazy bubble going on. um,
It's a very very rowdy moment in Polish gaming industry
it's,
of what's happening with CD Projekt. They are getting slammed, one by one right now. The situation with Konrad Tomaszkiewicz, whom I know personally, and I always like we're friends. I never worked with him, so I can't say anything on the fact whatever. That he left the company on mobbing charges, which were overthrown, but he still left the company.
right.
Uh, so
What
mm,
I mean,
yeah,
tell me
coming back to
what was the Polish games industry like? I guess 10, 15 years ago, before the like big boom started happening.
what was it like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that back 15 years ago, you would have been a
This
journalist.
was 2005. So in 2005, it was already kind of starting to establish
Mm-hmm.
because that was the moment when the big company. For me, 2007 is one of the most important periods in video gaming ever because that was the moment when we got into the mainstream. That was the moment when PS3 and Xbox 360 came up. They dominated the not the oh Jesus. Enterprise is. I'm looking for a word. Sorry. Rozrywka. Wait, I need to.
My Polish is not that good. Sorry, I can't.
Yeah,
I
I know.
can't
I know. No,
help.
no, 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 no. Somebody will write it. Entertainment, Jesus, entertainment business. That was the like. Sorry, it's one a.m. and 1:30 actually, and I'm
Yeah,
really tired after
thank you for doing it live, by
a
the way.
lot of. No worries. I like lives. So yeah, both those consoles basically broke entertainment business. They took the crown from movies and from music.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, video games became something which was in the mainstream, which was not nerdy anymore, which was kind of cool. Like I waited whole my life for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that particular moment in video gaming very important. In Poland, it was also important because those companies came to Poland to establish their structure in Poland. Mm. Both Sony and Microsoft. The big AAA companies like EA established their studios, their offices in Poland. Ubisoft came to Poland. Uh, so it started to change a lot. It started to become less virgin, more organized. People started buying video games, not just stealing them, because piracy was always
Yeah.
super super strong in Poland for years and years. Still is. Mm. But right now we already started having a semi-normal market. Like I remember sales. I don't know the sales from last year, which were probably bigger than before. But when I looked at the sales from 2019, 2018, like major sales for major video games were still like really really low for a country of 38 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you consider how many thousands, hundreds of thousands copies or millions of copies sell in so-called Western Europe, so Germany, France. Of course, the societies are way more wealthy in those countries, so they can buy more. But still, in Poland, we are already past that moment when we are like a very very poor country. It's still a country that's working its way out up, but we already have people who can buy video games. We don't have that kind of um, habitude of buying video games. People just take them from like they are surprised that they should be paying for video games. Oh, Kitty!
Right.
I can see
Yeah, I know.
Kitty's butt.
Hold on one second.
I have here behind me.
We'll see. Hopefully she goes.
Yeah, she's gone. She's gone.
Why do you think that piracy remains so strong? I've noticed it's died down incredibly in North America.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's the influx of Game Pass and these kinds of things that are contributing to it for sure. But even before that, like, I feel like, you know, once Steam really started rolling, you know,
You answered the question.
it killed it, right? But I mean, why is it Poland's in Poland? Why is the piracy still so strong? Is it just a cultural thing?
Yeah, yeah, it's cultural thing. People are not used to be paying for video games. But it changes. Like I don't want to bash on Polish people just like that because we do it a lot anyway. There is this expression cebula, onion, which means like, being super cheap. So Polish people tend to cebula a lot. But right now, I always said, like for years, I said that. For years, it's already happened. Right now, you have so many opportunities for free video games, for cheap video games, for sales for AAA titles from last year. Like you can basically for like I don't know $10 or $20, you can buy a AAA title from 2 years ago,
Right.
and it'll be an awesome. Still, it'll be an awesome experience. It'll look fantastic, right? Like Red Dead Redemption is a game which is like what 3 years old already.
Yeah.
You can get it in a sale bin. You can get it from somebody for like again $15 or whatever.
Right. We're past that point
play...
where 1 year of newer game development, like at you know late 90s, early 2000s, a new game in a new year would be leaps and bounds better. We're kind of at this like diminishing returns kind of state right now, where it's you know it's not like what next year's game is not going to look 100 times better, whereas 10 years ago next year's game would have.
Yeah, but people still whine about prices of video games because they still want that game, even though it is still pretty much the same as the last title. Yes, I'm looking at you, FIFA, and at you, Assassin's Creed. They still want to buy this new game. Thing is that they can wait. That's the only thing. They don't want to wait, and then they have to pay. Like I'm not a huge fan of capitalism lately, but actually in this case, God damn it! If you want to pay for your pleasure, especially that it's not that's another thing that in general gamers tend to forget. Video games are not the how do you call it subject of the first need in Poland. It's called. So basically, they're not like food or water. Like they're not necessary for your life.
I disagree.
Oh, of course, me too. But for us, that's slightly different.
Essential.
They are essential. Again, if they are essential for you, there are free video games. I got back into League of Legends recently, which is a AAA title, mind-blowingly good. Still, after all those years, it's one of the best games I've ever played in my life. Production-wise, marketing-wise, anything-wise. And they deserve absolutely the place they hold right now. You can play that. You can play, I don't know, free shooters. You can play, there are free MMOs right now. You can play if you need story, for example, right? Or you can, again, pay a small amount of money for a trial. Or you can buy a pass, as you said. That's actually a very thing in our business. I really don't know what will happen because of Game Passes. How it will affect smaller companies. How it will affect bigger companies. If AAA games will be a thing in the future.
Yeah, it has been interesting, especially I don't know if you got a chance to see, but like the Apple Epic lawsuit has kind of like leaked some documents regarding how much companies have been paid for being featured as a free game on Epic Games Store, right? And it kind of makes me, the Game Pass payouts can't be that far off of it, right? And it's good money, but per unit it's like worse than a Humble Bundle.
That's the thing. Like will it be like for us, the smaller companies? It will be probably still an opportunity and a business. But like I'm asking myself, will it be worth for first of all game passes, second of all game streaming? Will it be worth making video games in the AAA quality as we had? AAA quality visually, yes, because people will still want to look at nice looking video games. But for example, will they be, highly complicated video games? Because the accessibility of the video games is becoming so wide, so they are so easy to access right now because of the game passes, because of the streaming systems, which are like, I never believed in streaming, and I stand corrected. I played whatchamacallit, Will of the Wisps, and the second one, the Ori. There you go. Yeah, I played Ori on streaming service, which is a very, very input dependent game, and it's playable. It's not the best experience you can imagine, but you can still play it.
Yeah, I mean, the technology only gets better. Like, that's not a concern, right? Like, I feel like the technology behind streaming is inevitable. The thing that gets me is if we're in a Netflix world for games, what do we start making?
That's exactly my point. And we are in a world of Netflix. That means that we are in the mainstream, and we need to create video games for people who are not video gamers. They want just an experience. But my point about the technology is that you and me, we are video gamers like hardcore. Right? For me, the response time, for example, is key. When I'm playing game like say League of Legends, it's super important that there is no delay. There will always be delay when you stream video games. I can feel it even with the very strong internet, 5G or on the fiber. Wi-Fi. Yeah, you can still feel there is some delay. And I played Cyberpunk on GeForce Now on my computer. It's a completely different experience than when you play it on your whatever 2070 or 3080. I won, right? I got it. I won a 3080 RTX in a Cyberpunk screenshot contest. The first thing I've ever won. I'm so happy about it.
It's a good prize.
Oh, it's a good, like people are really jealous about it.
So if we are in a world where, see, here's the other thing is, there's some sort of like process that happens when somebody has to go buy a game, especially when it's an expensive game, right? You're putting down $60, you're kind of buying into the idea of the game, right? Versus when you don't pay for things. And this actually ties back into piracy. My history with piracy, I grew up a massive pirate. Like I was pirating Sega Genesis games onto floppy disks. This is how I got most of my games education, as a kid. You pirate a ton of games, you get to experience all kinds of things, but you lack any staying power with games. I found kids who grew up having their one or two games that they got on their birthdays, would really go deep into a game. Versus when you're pirating or you're getting things for free. And this also back when I was a journalist, getting games for free all the time, you have no staying power with them. It's just you cycle through. I understand this mechanic, I throw it away. I understand this mechanic, I throw it away. This, okay, cool ambience, throw it away. And you never really like fully absorb the game in its entirety, which, I mean, I'd say for 95% of things you don't really need to. Once a game reveals itself, it's kind of like, how much more do you enjoy it? And
I
worry that as we step into a Netflix world of games, it's going to be, everybody has that sort of experience where it's no longer, I'm going to really dive deep and like enjoy this as much as possible because I have to, because I threw $60 at it, or it's my like 3 games for the year, versus I'm just going to discard this and go look for something else. And it's just that constant scroll feeling, but for games now.
It is true. I think that's exactly my problem with game passes and game accessibility. As much as I mean wide audience accessibility, handicap.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, the bigger we get, the simpler we'll get. It's like with the movies. The biggest blockbusters are, stupid Transformers. Sorry, I don't like Transformers. They're stupid. As much as I love Transformers as a brand, and I played with Transformers when I was a kid, even though it was really hard to get them in Poland. I freaking hated those movies because they were the pinnacle of stupidity. Like, there was so much money thrown into a complete garbage bin, and I don't understand why. Because you can make them funnier or whatever. Like, put anything in it, and that will happen with video games as well. It's already happened. They are getting dumber. They are getting simpler. The AAAs are like, there are some absolute gems, and also that's actually a cool thing, that there are some companies that want to kind of teach people with those games. And I'm looking at Naughty Dog, and even though they have their own share of problems being the company of 100 something people and crunch whatever, I still think that they make important games because they, especially The Last of Us, because they toy with the audience, and they have the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually super rare for me. When you look, for example, at Call of Duty series, which is the breaking point. Exactly, like Halo and Call of Duty were the breaking. Call of Duty Modern Warfare was the first game to break $350 million earned, and that was the first time when the game made more than the movie.
Right.
I think maybe no, I think it happened. Yeah, that was the first game to do it. I was thinking that maybe some of the Grand Theft Autos did it, but I think that the first title to kind of crash the movie industry was Call of Duty, and then they did it year after year after year, selling $500 million worth of copies, $750 million, and breaking the 1 billion. I think they broke the 1 billion also at least once, and even if not at the launch, they did it in the long run.
It's an interesting case, especially when I think of Halo and I think of Modern Warfare. Those are both games that had tremendous, like Halo 3 single player campaign, Modern Warfare single player campaign, really well done, high production quality. I wouldn't say it's like the greatest storytelling in the universe, but they're well made single player experiences.
But they're silly.
But yes, but it was the multiplayer that had the time put into it, and I think it's the multiplayer that drove those sales and drove the audience, and that led the direction away. So even in that state, before people were getting everything for free, they were given, within the same package, here's this incredible single player experience, and here's this incredible but empty multiplayer experience. Which do you choose? And people repeatedly chose the multiplayer experience. That's just a virtue of like it being endless versus a campaign finishes. And Palicio, I'm curious, how many have you played with the Game Pass? If you finished two games, but how many have you opened
with the Game Pass?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm reading the chat.
Oh, geez. Oh, yeah. That's probably true. Yeah, and that's the thing. When you have the Game Pass, you stop looking at it, and it's all just lying there, and you come back only for the titles that are new and thrown in it.
Right.
And actually, there are some really good. That's another thing. Like from a consumer's perspective, Game Passes right now are the best way of consuming video games. There's nothing better. There is nothing cheaper. You like with the which I always like. I'm super stoked that I'm saying that. I'm a huge fan of Electronic Arts Game Pass. They have one of the best Game Passes on the market. You have all the games from EA, everything, every single big title, all the Battlefields, and then you have like all the smaller companies like Clay, for example, all the Mark of Ninja or whatever, Shank, and then you have normal indie games in it. Like it's absolutely like you scroll through it, and there are video games, and there are hours of video games. And then you have, for example, Dead Space. I played recently and finished it on the stream, the first one, and it still holds up. The game from 2008, 2007.
So we like the Game Pass now?
Yeah, I like it as a consumer. I'm afraid of it as a creator slash
Right. Because I mean, it's
director of video games.
the biggest publishers have the opportunity, like EA, right? I mean, you ask where does AAA fit into this Game Pass ecosystem, and it's offering their own Game Pass. That's why they're all. That's why Ubisoft has one. That's why EA has one. That's why.
But do you think that they can sustain themselves from Game Passes and considering how big the budgets for video games right now are?
I mean,
I'm
just
not
exploit
sure
your
about
workers
it.
more. Make up the cost difference there. What the hell? It's easy.
Yeah,
it's a tough equation.
like as I said, I'm afraid of Game Passes. But on the other side, as a consumer, as I said before, never in our history we had so many games, so cheap video games, so many different kinds.
Are you as afraid of Game Passes as you have been of piracy?
Yeah, because I'm more afraid of Game Pass than of piracy, because piracy didn't influence the creative, and Game Passes will.
Right. I mean, piracy did. I mean, you can argue about whether
It's
or not
subscription services.
just right. But you can argue whether or not piracy affects the bottom line of a studio and the game they publish. But I would say absolutely there is always a percentage of money that is lost. It's just very hard to calculate. You can't really there's like audience that would have always stolen it no matter what, that kind of thing. But I'd say it definitely piracy has affected risk within the industry, right? On a certain level, there has to be a minimum risk threshold.
But piracy is gone, so we kind of sorted out, by creating online acquisition of video games, Steam and all the other shops, and then by creating free video games with monetization systems, and then by having sales, everything what we talked about. I don't think we have a piracy problem right now. It kind of solves itself by by the world progressing. Same thing with movies. Like I pirated movies. I pirated always more movies than video games, because games I had from work mostly. But yeah, of course I did pirate some video games, but I mostly pirated movies. When the Netflix came up, when HBO Go, whatever, all those services came up to Poland, I stopped pirating movies practically at all. And the best example of how kind of, I don't want to use the word grown up with that, but it is kind of being grown up, I'd say. It's also a question of ethics. I'd like to pay people in any form for what they did, and subscription is one of those forms, better than not paying at all. That being said, like up until now I didn't see Mandalorian because Disney Plus is not in Poland, and I won't watch it before. I was so close, but we didn't manage to set it up. VPN and stuff like that. But I'm still no. It was a weird evening in general. We tried to set it up, we failed. But my point is that I like to first of all pay for services when somebody is giving me a service in the form of a movie or whatever. Second of all, it's easier for me right now. Like I know that it will work. I know that there won't be some Russian spying program that will install itself on my computer and send
game piracy. Game piracy and movie piracy definitely has one big difference in it, and that's installing software on your computer.
Well, you can
versus an MP4.
You could have put on viruses, and they did it on on movies and MP4s, whatever, MKV, Matryoshka or whatever was that. It was a Russian format for. It is still. It's for larger movies.
So if we're afraid of Game Pass as creators. What do we do about it?
We can't do anything.
Fuck.
we can count on the fact that there'll always be a niche for us, for people making video games for, like, you know, smaller audiences. But the thing is that I think that, you know, the games that are kind of popular, like, you know, first person shooters or whatever, they will become a niche as well in a way, when the games will become, you know, popular as television. Well, television is not the best example right now.
Right.
I always had the saying that in the future everybody will play video games.
Yeah.
It's already kind of happening, at least in developed countries. And I always said that there's a game for everybody. You just have to find it. So, you know, finding the right games. And in the future, we will be gamers in some form. I'm just not sure if that's the form that we want it to be. It will be more like VR chat, I think, or everything connected to. I think that we are going in a direction of the Ready Player One idea, the Elysium or whatever.
Yeah, I see it more and more with there's so many, I mean, Epic's metaverse brand smash up in Fortnite, and, you know, all these.
That's exactly. I think Fortnite is the first real metaverse, right? Like the massive meta. Because there are different, like there's World of Warcraft. Any single multiplayer online is really a metaverse as well. But Fortnite is doing something on a completely different level.
It's weird. There's been this awareness, and then there's the rabbit hole. There's an awareness in popular culture about, like, quantum reality, multiple universes, you know, multiple timelines, that these sort of ideas were, like, it feels like a switch got flipped at some point within the last, like, 5 years, 10 years, where that used to be like a really hard concept for people, to now it's like as mainstream as possible.
Because they grew up with it. Remember, we have this industry for, like, what, 30 years in reality, right? Of course, it started slightly earlier, but in reality, the gaming industry started to develop in the 90s, and it took off in 2005, 2007. That's the moment when it took off, and it never stopped. All right, we are still growing as an industry year by year by year. I don't think there was a year in which we shrank. And right now we are blooming because we are the friggin' orchestra on the Titanic.
Right, but
that's actually surprising.
But you can't have this metaverse without, like, the old people, the IP holders, starting to agree to it, right? Like, it used to be, let's hoard our property as tight as we can and make it, you know, so nobody else can mess with it, because we have to preserve it no matter what. Is it, I mean, I guess, is it like just memes destroyed everything? Where it's like, you know, if now SpongeBob is getting thrown in a million different ways, what value does holding on to him so tightly have when he's going to be pulled out of our hands no matter what? Do you see any reason why the people who control IPs have loosened their grip?
It's a question of scale and money. Fortnite is basically big enough and also accessible for them enough. Like, for example, you can do stuff you do in Fortnite, you can't do it in League of Legends.
Right.
Even though League of Legends, of course, you can put some brandings on. They are already doing it. They are putting, you know, like the advertisements on the field, on the tri-lane, you know, the pitch, so to speak. They already put, like, you know, Spotify adverts or whatever. But you can't do stuff like you do with, you know, putting Neymar as a character in Fortnite. They put in the freaking, you know, soccer player as a character in a video game. You have to create a world, like the metaverse, which is accessible enough and big enough. It is big enough because they kind of struck the gold vein and they hit the jackpot, whatever, copying PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds,
right,
and winning with it, which was absolutely, you know, mental. I'm a huge PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds player, still up until this day. So I'm still a little sore about the fact that Fortnite won that war, but I understand it perfectly because Fortnite is again more accessible than other games. More, not for the players, but for the brands to get in. It's more of a kind of a, how do you call it? Like a jelly. It doesn't have its own character. It kind of absorbs all the character from everything.
It's a sponge.
It's a sponge. Yeah, it's a SpongeBob of video game.
Man. So, okay, takeaways for me here are, as a small to mid-sized creator, survivability in the future Game Pass world is living within the niche.
Yeah.
If you want big bags of money, I guess hand your games over to Game Passes and make a character that can be thrown into Fortnite.
And have investors that will basically market up your game, because still marketing works. Like that's basically the reason why the AAA companies still earn money. It's that their marketing works. They put on a lot of money to promote a title, but they create a global yearning for something, like with Cyberpunk, for example. Like, you can say about Cyberpunk what you want, but it was like they created a need for Cyberpunk in the whole world, like whole, again, Western developed world. So it works if you have a lot of money, and that's my point also about why Fortnite is successful, because they put a lot of money in it, so it could be successful. And because they put that money, the big companies wanted to kind of put their brands into Fortnite, because they wanted to promote it to the wide audience. That is like, it's a marketer's dream. You can imagine all the data that you get from Fortnite, the access to the customer from, which is very, very influative. How do you say it? Like, very easy to influence.
Right. It's more like they built an ad platform than a game at the end of the day.
Yes and no, because I'm having difficulty with that, because from one side, yeah, it is an ad platform, but from the other side, the idea of having Thanos in Fortnite and running with the Infinity Gauntlet, friggin' awesome.
Right.
Their events are friggin' awesome. Having a concert of Marshmello, which I don't listen, I never heard a song by Marshmello in my life, but having the concert of that guy in Fortnite is friggin' mind blowing. Right. Like, I'm watching those events when they happen. Like, I think I missed a lot of them, but I've seen some of them with the kaiju, with the robot. Like, there was this black hole. Like, all those events are mind blowing. Like experiencing something like that in a video game. I wish I was playing Fortnite just to experience those moments. So they are
marketing
advertising,
works.
and yeah, okay, but again, marketing works, and they sell us, all those products. But from the other side, I always like the video games and comic books. Mm-hmm. That's my word, and I know that they are a product, and they have to be marketed. But from the other side, I want to experience them. So is it good or bad? Is it for us? Our, like, at least my dream is to create a brand which will be globally accepted. And right now, I want to do it with Cyberpunk, right? And I will have to market. I will have to use the dirty trick, right?
Right. Well, I guess we're getting to near the end of things. Where should people head to if they want to follow the journey of your studio? And
Noca-tek on Facebook, or noca-tek.pl, nova-tech.pl. That's the web page. But yeah, I'm really active on Facebook because I'm old and I'm from Poland, and we use Facebook in Poland. So that's also a good place to follow me. Tadeusz Zielinski. Mm-hmm. I'm on a motorcycle. You see on the photo. Yeah, I'm crazy about motorcycles, dude. Oh, I'm so crazy. Best thing happened to me in a long time.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. It's been a very interesting talk. It feel like we went all over the place with it, but it was really good to have you on. And
Thank you
gang,
for inviting
yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for staying up so late.
me.
And I guess I'll see everybody tomorrow. We're gonna do more weird. I don't know what it's weird game dev stuff. And I see somebody's playing ASM, right? So we'll send you guys there to get babysat. But until then, thank you guys for tuning in. See you later.
Night, night.